Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate reporting on a beautiful late May day in 2016 from a rather boggish area of a lake. Coming at you with a review for a movie, found footage movie by the name of Cloverfield. This is a movie that obviously I was interested in at the time because, well, it should be noted that first off that this movie had a very kind of unique and, very unique and interesting and teaserish, like, I don't know, trailer, ad campaign. And the trailer for this movie was so obscure and goofy, it made some people wondered if this was a Godzilla movie. I mean, it was so secretive that no one really knew anything about it. And in a lot of ways, this is kind of how I think movies should really be. It was a perfect trailer in a lot of ways, because it made you want to see the movie to see what the whole deal was about. So, having grown up on the Godzilla movies and Japanese kaiju movies and stuff like that, obviously when I saw the trailer for this, I was very interested in it. I thought it probably wasn't a Godzilla movie, but it was definitely something that would be like maybe a monster movie in New York kind of a thing. Ironically enough, like 10 years after the American Matthew Broderick Godzilla. But at any rate, this the ad campaign for this movie was very interesting, secretive, and like I say, it made you want to see the movie. Even back in 2008, just like now, even way back then, almost 10 years ago, I wasn't too much of a fan of going out to movies. I mean, I only went out to movies if it was something like Episode 3, something that I was really interested in. So this obscure thing obviously didn't pique my interest enough to get me out into the theater to see it. But I think I can't remember. I must have been, oh yeah, I was working at a video store at this time, so I don't know if I was able to see it for free at the video store or whatever. Regardless, I ended up buying the DVD at the time. It should be also noted that if you've watched, some of the reviews on this channel, some of the former, reviews of found footage movies, it should be noted that I'm not a fan by any stretch of the imagination of found footage movies. I've said it before, I think in the review me and Matt did of Paranormal Activity, that I think found footage is just a way for people who don't know how to make a movie to make a movie. I don't like the found footage genre. But I think I can safely say, not having seen every found footage movie, obviously, because I'm not a fan, but I can safely say that of all the found footage movies I've seen, this is what I would regard as my favorite found footage movie. I think the most competent found footage movie I have seen. I actually bought the DVD back in the day when it came out, and I acquired the Blu-ray for $3 several months ago, and I rewatched it last night just to be fresh on it. It's a relatively short movie, like an hour and 15 minutes long. So I rewatched it last night, and the Blu-ray looks fantastic. Definitely worth the $3 I paid for it. So what I was saying is, this is, in my opinion, the best found footage movie I've seen. My favorite of the found footage movies. And having rewatched it last night, it does. I was surprised. I watched the Blu-ray when I got it, months ago when I initially got it, and I was kind of disappointed. I was surprised how shaky it was. I mean, that was the first time I'd seen the movie on a bigger, HD, a bigger screen. So the bigger the screen, the more shaky it is. And gosh, even last night, I think it's too shaky. And I can understand why Matt threw up in the theater seeing this, because I can't imagine watching this on a theater screen. But anyway, having rewatched it last night, originally it was kind of like a 2-star movie in my opinion, but having rewatched it last night, I think, it really, strangely enough, it never gets boring. It's like, whatever, hour and 15 minutes long, and, that's the non-credit part of the movie, and it's just like, it never really gets boring. One thing that I like, obviously this movie was made in the time of, like tape being like the prevalent medium in video cameras at the time, and I think this is kind of like, I can't even remember if there was HD tape. There probably was HD tape, I can't remember, but at any rate, one thing I like about this movie, and it's pretty clever, and I hadn't seen in any found footage movie prior I'm sure it's been done in other things, but I hadn't seen it in a found footage movie before or since, is this whole notion of the actual like Cloverfield night or the attack night being recorded over something that happened like a month earlier. This relationship between this main guy and this very anorexic. I'm just looking out for Rana. I hear all kinds of noises and stuff. So this very pretty but very anorexic looking girl that I guess they were friends forever, and they hooked up one night in late April or whatever. But I thought it was really cool to have this like April footage, which was like just a morning and a day with these two, just we're assuming it's like the next day after they hooked up, and they just videotaped for assuming 90 minutes or 80 minutes or something like this on this digital videotape, but just their day just spending in New York or whatever. So throughout the movie, that's how the movie begins, and then with the morning of April whatever, and they just did it, and they woke up, I don't know if they just did it, but anyway, they woke up, following the night of just having done it, and then it cut after just establishing a little bit of that, and like, what are you going to do today? And we're going to do this, whatever. Then it cuts to something like 4 weeks later, late May or something like that. I think it's May 22nd. And now we find out that they're taping over, and this happens, this is really kind of a good idea, that, this girlfriend took this guy's brother, took his camera to tape this guy's like a earlier mid 20 something who's like a vice president of some company in Japan. I remember reading things on forums of how stupid that was, and I agree, that's just like whatever. So this character is actually, has a, so on May 22nd, the footage we start with is, they're gonna have a big party and a send-off for this guy and whatever, and then we see that, at this time, several weeks later, 4 or 5 weeks later, that his girlfriend, or not, I don't think they were a girlfriend, they just like were friends forever, and then they hooked up, and then he didn't, since he was leaving for Japan, he kind of didn't call her back, so this whatever, and this kind of, very Dawson Leary-ish, little drama here with anorexic girl with a pretty face. And so we paint this picture of this whatever, and the girl shows up with this guy who would end up in a year later being in Friday the 13th reboot remake at the beginning of it. And long story short, it's an extremely, I'm not a fan of found footage movies, but I think it's like I say, it's the best one I've seen. I think it's the most competent one I've seen, and obviously out of all the found footage movies I've seen, it's the biggest budget. It's not like found footage because we can't afford, A movie effects. It's an A movie taking the found footage route. So it's got like, even by today's standards, the visual effects are still really cool, and like the Statue of Liberty's head, coming down, bang, current slam bang. And I actually I didn't remember how much actual like footage of the monster and fighting the monster and stuff was in the movie, and having rewatched it last night, I was like, wow, there's more like monster footage and stuff, and the army shooting at it crap than I remember. And last night I rather enjoyed it. So at the end of the day, this is probably my highest star rating for a found footage movie. That's because I like this one the most out of every one that I've seen. I'm probably gonna go, I think I'm gonna go 2.5 stars, which is high for me for a found footage movie for Cloverfield. I think it's, and the rewatch values, maybe not every day or every week or every month, but I mean, having rewatched it again, having seen it last, maybe just, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, it's, it's good to have in the old collection to revisit, and it's an interesting, different way of like a, it was kind of cool because they could have just made this movie just normal. Like I say, it's kind of an bigger budget Hollywood movie with, really, ambitious and, really pretty amazing visual effects, and they, for whatever reason took the, the found footage route to make this movie. So it's always been one of those movies that's just kind of like whatever, and stuff like that. And so 2.5 stars for Cloverfield. Like I said, being a fan of kaiju movies and having grown up with Godzilla and stuff, it's, I'm always up for a, big monster movie wreaking havoc in a city. So I guess that pretty much does it. Obviously, you've probably seen the movie or whatever, and if you haven't and you can get the Blu-ray for $3 like I did, I would recommend it, or the DVD for $2 or whatever. I'd recommend it or whatever. It's, I kind of just wish that anorexic skeleton girl was in it a little more, because she's got a really pretty face. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to comment on. Another huge props I give for this movie is apparently it looks like these people, you know, all their friends throughout the movie, you know, die one by one. They end up dying, either getting bit by a little, you know, monster creature and ending up just spontaneously combusting or whatever the hell happened to her, or spontaneously exploding in the blood. Or the friend gets, you know, chewed up and dropped by the monster, you know, directly or whatever. So throughout the course of the movie, this guy's friends kind of drop dead one by one, and I will give the movie huge props for, it looks like, you know, the skeleton anorexic girl with pretty face and the main, the vice president guy, who never to be, from in Japan, looks like they end up perishing, which is really kind of cool. And the movie ends, you know, with, you know, they perish right before the tape ends, and then for what's kind of, well, yeah, for whatever reason the recording stops, and then the very movie ends when at the end of the tape from the April, from 4 or 5 weeks earlier, you know, with them being on a, you know, Ferris wheel or whatever the hell they're on, and they're just like, oh, what do you have to say? And they're all, you know, having just had sex the night before and spent the day together. The couple being all happy and shit are like, oh, it was a great day. And so I thought that was the aspect of having something being recorded and then taped over, and then you seeing the little snippets of that day 4 or 5 weeks prior throughout the movie, and having it end that way after them, you know, presumably perishing, and then having the footage stop and the ending with 5 weeks earlier on a happy note is pretty fantastic. So 2.5 stars, Cloverfield. I've talked about it way more than I intended to, but having rewatched it last night, it was pretty kind of cool. So maybe I was just in some kind of not good mood because it's spring. But thank you very much for watching this review, and we'll catch you next time.